This is not dated, but it's from 1997, and we can narrow down the season a little bit better. But a couple of weeks ago on one of the programs, we had ideas that our favorite stain had come up with for Shotgun Saturday Night Live when that show was debuting, and they were trying to figure out the concept of it and what was going on. Well, I found another 2 pages of notes here that were circulated, and this time it was signed, Ideas Regarding Talent Roster, Vince Russo. So he's taking credit for this one. And every once in a while, and I don't know that this was the names I'm seeing on here are all the people on the talent roster that were kind of floating aimlessly, that were not figured into anything, were not actually doing possibly well in their current incarnations, whatever. The people on the roster that they needed to figure out some way to change, tweak, or do something with, right? So this is not the entire roster. And every once in a while, Vince would ask for ideas on such and such people, or sometimes he'd say the whole roster, or evaluations or whatever. Sometimes JR would ask the same thing. But in this case, it appears that, because I don't remember anybody ever asking for ideas for this list of people, so I think he's taken a bunch of guys, like I said, that were kind of floating and been proactive. Because the one thing that you would get, as we've talked about from this fellow, is a lot of ideas. So I just thought we'd go through some of these. Mark Marrow and Sable. Remember when they were going to, they revamped Marrow about 3 or 4 times, but they switched him heel at one point and tried to give him a new look and a new attitude, right? Because originally he'd come in as a baby face with her at his corner. And as I'd mentioned to Bruce, why the fuck is anybody going to cheer for him when he's got this blonde with big hoo-has in his corner? And what's her purpose for being there? Well, she looks great. Well, what's her purpose? She's not his manager. A valet generally accompanies an obnoxious, egotistical heel. So why is this guy that you want people to take as a babyface, whose only position in the business thus far has been impersonating Little Richard, why do you want her to come out with him, and what are the people supposed to think about it? And all they could do, well, they look great together. That was Bruce's thing. That was Vince's thing. It was never explained what her purpose was. So Mark Marrow and Sable, this idea sheet. I think we should go on as scheduled with Marrow and Sable in regards to his new look and new attitude. Well, that's nice of him to say that, since I don't know at the time that he was officially on the creative team. Here, that's what we got to narrow this time frame down. From there, I believe that Marrow should start abusing Sable out of jealousy.
Oh my God.
Which in turn will turn the fans against him while they cheer for her. That was the problem originally. When he was a babyface, they cheered for her and she turned the fans against him. He was a spare prick at the wedding. He was useless. They were all looking at her. So anyway, he says he should start abusing her, which in turn will turn the fans against him while they cheer for her. At the appropriate time, a top babyface, maybe Dude Love in parentheses, should go to the aid of Sable, who in turn will go with that babyface. Then at the appropriate time, wait a minute, a top babyface should go to the aid of Sable, who in turn will go with that babyface. Then at the appropriate time, Sable will screw the babyface in favor of Marrow. In other words, it was a work orchestrated between Marrow and Sable all along, thus firmly pitting the fans against them.
It's absolutely Vince Russo because it's a swerve.
The swerve.
Yeah.
And actually, he's stealing and didn't even know it. He's stealing the fucking Dirty White Girl and Dirty White Boy and Tom Pritchard angle from Alabama 10 years previously, and he didn't know because he'd never seen that. However, I love it. He says at the appropriate time, a top babyface, maybe Dude. I'm pretty sure this is in one of Cactus's books. But if it's not, or even if it is, there was a time, and it may have been WrestleMania 97. That it would fit. There was a time where the idea was, and maybe it's 98, I can't remember, but the idea was and it couldn't have been 98 because Mick was figured in by then. So it had to be 97. The idea was Mick Foley versus Mark Marrow in some respect, right? Following along this idea. And they told me to call Mick and tell him that he'd be on WrestleMania wrestling Mark Marrow in this idea that they had involving Sable. And I called him up and I pitched it to him and there was silence on the phone. And then he said, Corny, I don't know if anyone's ever asked you this before, but is it okay if I'm just not on WrestleMania?
Wow.
Because he knew it was death. He didn't want to work on WrestleMania with Mark Marrow over Sable. So anyway, they changed it. Number 2 on this idea sheet, Tiger Ali Singh. Remember him? Tiger Singh's son. Another of he was like the Hindu from Ontario version of Carlos Colon's kids in Puerto Rico. He'd always been the hero's son, and he assumed he was, destined for greatness. So actually, old shit stain here, sooner or later, a blind squirrel will find a nut. And I've got to say that sooner or later, I always knew I would agree with something he said. And here it is. Tiger Ali Singh, just let the guy be himself and the fans will genuinely hate him in capital letters. Doug Furnas and Phil LaFon. Remember one of the great tag teams of the 90s for All Japan Wrestling, but by this point, LaFon's knees were shot and he was not the guy that he once was. And Doug Furnas was a beast and the world's strongest man and an athletic marvel, but they didn't fit in the WWF at the time like a lot of just good working tag teams didn't.
And I think that's right around the time people started to realize just how beat up the All Japan guys were.
Yeah, because they'd been in All Japan for 10 years. Furnas and LaFon, blanket them in the Japanese flag and have Yokozuna and the Patriot join their cause at the appropriate time.
Yokozuna and the Patriot?
The soldiers of the rising sun. So he's going to turn Del Wilkes the Patriot. This is summer of 97 because Del had just come in by that point. Yokozuna was not let go at that point. I think he may have been in Duke at that point. Number 4, Mark Henry. Let me come back to
Wait, hold on. You're going way too fast past the Sons of the Rising Sun.
Oh, okay. Soldiers of the Rising Sun.
Soldiers of the Rising Sun. So it's Furnas and LaFon draped in Japanese flags with Yokozuna and the Patriot?
Yes.
All right, maybe it didn't go too fast past enough.
Well, yeah. See, Furnas and LaFon, we saw they've done great in Japan. And again, Vince Russo had never seen Doug Furnas before he showed up in the WWF. He hadn't seen him in Continental. He hadn't seen him in All Japan. He hadn't seen him on WCW. He didn't know what the fuck he could do.
So the Patriot would have had
to turn heel and become a Japanese sympathizer.
He would have come out of the Bret Hart feud, upset that America didn't prevail over Canada, and announced that he's renouncing America and he's joined forces with Yokozuna.
Yes, who's Samoan. And number 4, Mark Henry. Let me come back to this one. That's what it says. Let me come back to this one. Number 5, Flash Funk. Remember Too Cold Scorpio, Flash Funk. Easy. Charles Skaggs, and let him be his high-flying self, flying with an apostrophe and no G. Maybe rub him up against Ahmed Johnson in their cause against the nation.
Rub him up against him?
Yeah. Is it a black thing? Yes, that's what it is. Have a conversation with Skaggs and find out for yourself. Let him denounce the gimmick and just do what he does best. Maybe the nation recruits him, maybe they don't. I think they do. He says no, they kick his ass, and perhaps he recruits Ahmed and Mark Henry to help him kick theirs. How about the posse? Let them be what they are, and that isn't a prejudice statement. No D on the end of prejudice. That's not a prejudice statement.
Wow.
Remember Rick Bogner the fake Razor.
Yeah.
Rick Bogner cut his hair, put him with Tom Brandi, and you have a beautiful Italian hitmen team. But real Italian gangsters don't kill them by gimmicking them.
I don't understand. Real Italian gangsters, unlike what, Tony D'Angelo? Like, what is he saying?
I don't have any idea how. If a guy is obviously visually a gangster, an Italian. I know they don't have a mafia type of thing.
No.
But
I mean,
if they did,
if they did, that'd be something. I will say, I'm not going to totally shoot down that one because if you really think about timing wise, that would have been right before The Sopranos. So timing wise, it may have worked out.
With Tom Brandi and Rick Bogner.
Well, no, I'm not saying. When you add the details, then it kind of kills it.
I mean, Tom Brandi is Italian.
Yes.
And
sincerely Italian, yeah.
Sincerely, I don't know about Bogner. Is Bogner an Italian name? All righty. Remember Brackus.
Oh, who could forget Brackus?
His real name was Achim Albrecht, and he was a German bodybuilder with a freakish physique and nice guy, and even the combined efforts of Tom Pritchard, Dory Funk Jr., and everybody else involved could not teach him how to wrestle. Brackus will be over the same way Ahmed was. By looking at him, everyone will want to be him.
What?
I don't. Either he thought that
he wanted to be Ahmed. Who knew?
or he, now bear in mind who's writing this and who the audience is. He knows that Vince is wrapped up in the physiques and everything. So potentially, but I don't know that anybody ever looked at Brackus and said, I want to be that guy. Especially after they saw him try to wrestle.
Or fight. Wasn't he in Brawl for All?
Yes. And remember, he had the robot arms in a shoot fight. Imagine how he worked. Darren Drozdov. Easy. I love easy. Is he proud? Oh, it's easy. I can figure all this shit out. The Droz is a suicidal, crazed football player who was cut from the NFL because he was unbalanced, a deranged and disturbed McMichael, who was on the other channel, Steve McMichael. I don't think he meant to say that he wanted Droz to be suicidal. I think he was mixing that up with, because, old Shitstain used to watch ECW for all of his ideas because he couldn't figure out any of his own that applied to wrestling. So I think he's more of homicidal or even genocidal. He's going for the Sabu tagline, homicidal, suicidal, genocidal. But he picked out, I don't think he wanted Droz to be depressed.
You remember when they first put out those Sabu shirts? This was the first sign there was real heat between Taz and Sabu. Taz was the person in charge of making the shirts for ECW, at least at that point. And the Sabu shirt said homicidal, not homicidal.
Oh my God.
They misspelled homicidal, so it said homicidal. And a lot of people back then were pointing the fingers at Taz saying, that's how much he hates Sabu. That's what he did. Never proven, though. Never proven.
A lot of people can't spell.
That's true, too.
And when you point a finger at someone else, you have three more pointing back at you. But Lanny Poffo said that one time. The power saw has just started up.
I was going to say, was Lanny blowing himself while you just said that? What was that?
Holy mackerel. Now, come on. He did not have to take any ribs out surgically to be able to do that. That was a complete rumor.
I was naturally limber.
Number 9, the Honky Tonk Man on our list of ideas from our favorite shitstain. Honky Tonk Man, say goodbye. In 1997, the Honky Tonk Man isn't going to cut it no matter how much he entertains us. And this was at the time, you'll recall, when Vince had brought Wayne back to manage Rockabilly, who was Billy Gunn, as they were trying to rehabilitate him. Harley is in the background upset at the contractors for running the power saw downstairs. But she's so cute, we're going to leave it in. And by the way, so Wayne, now you know what Vince Russo thought of you in 1997.
Wait, that was it? That was basically just fire Honky Tonk Man?
That was just fire him. Just fire him. Yeah. Don't send him out to do public relations tour because people know who he is from the golden era. Don't fucking have him do radio stations or, on sales or whatever. Just fire him, send him home.
It would have been something if it was like, have him go away and come back all in leather, the comeback special. But no.
Number 10, along these same lines of get the fuck out of here, Fatu. Please forgive me, but I think we've done everything with him that we possibly can. And remember, again, that he'd gone from the Samoan SWAT team to Fatu to the Sultan. He was supposed to be Middle Eastern and wearing the fucking turban. And as a matter of fact, one time, Vince, I've told this story, he called Fatu in to give him his notice. And Afa and Rosie and Jamal came with Fatu to the meeting, and when they left, all four of them had jobs. He not only didn't fire Fatu, he hired the other three. Anyway,
and this is obviously before Rikishi, which would elevate him to a new level.
And finally, so we hadn't done everything with him we possibly could. He just needed to gain another 100 pounds and show his ass. Number 11, Bart Gunn. This one really troubles me. I think he's a keeper, but I don't know what you do with him. In looking at Bart, again, forgive me, you see a good old boy. I don't know why you would forgive someone for saying that. He's a good old boy. I don't know if he's capable of overcoming that. He needs to work on his promos, which doesn't make it any easier. Number 12, Barry Windham. As remember, Windham and Bradshaw were the new Blackjacks, which did wonders for the hair dye industry, but not for either one of their careers. Have him turn on Bradshaw and make him a modern-day redneck bounty hunter. Maybe the hit was made because somebody puts a bounty on the head of the Blackjacks. Little does Bradshaw know, but his partner Windham was the one paid to do the job. That's all they were paying Barry Windham to do at that point was the job.
Do you think the Italian tag team hired him to do the hit?
That would have thrown suspicion away from him. Listen to the next one. So, Barry Windham, make him a bounty hunter or whatever, but Eric Watts was still under contract from that Techno Team thing, right?
Techno Team 2000, him and Chad Fortune.
This is what he has to say. Could have elite potential. Read on, elite in quotation marks. We're going to pause on that one for a second.
So the original elite wrestler was Eric Watts?
Hold on. Justin Bradshaw. What else can he be besides a badass cowboy, a real believable shit kicker? Justin Hawk Bradshaw was a gimmick. Make him a badass cowboy, Dustin Rhodes with an edge. Justin Hawk Bradshaw was a gimmick, but Justin Bradshaw as a cowboy is not a gimmick. Anyway.
Now, he didn't spend a lot of time at the bar with the wrestlers, right?
No. And
so in terms of trying to figure out who Bradshaw was for real versus the gimmick, what his knowledge would just be backstage conversations.
Backstage in the locker room or on the phone or whatever. And I'm not saying I didn't spend any time in the bar either, but I knew what the fuck the wrestling business was about. But here we go at the end. I'm going to transpose these last two. The last one on the list is Yokozuna. Yokozuna joined forces with Furnace, LaFon, and the Patriot, the soldiers of the rising sun. Or he could become a member of the Hart Foundation.
Are there any details about how he would do that?
Yes. Here's the details. There's a lot of history there, so it could make perfect sense. That's the explanation for why Yokozuna would join the Hart Foundation.
What history?
That they'd wrestled each other, I guess. But anyway, the last two names. Rockabilly and Jesse James.
Oh.
Which, of course, would become Billy Gunn and Road Dogg, right?
The New Age Outlaws, yeah.
Well, remember, Eric Watts could have elite potential. With Rockabilly and Jesse James, not easy, but simple. Simple. All you people you're just idiots because this is simple. Billy Gunn and Jesse James can join Shawn and Hunter as members of the Elite.
He calls them the elite?
He calls them because there was no Degeneration X at this point. Behind the scenes, these guys are a natural fit. Just let them be themselves and it'll work like a charm. Maybe Watts can fit in this group. Maybe. Can you have seen it? Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, Shawn Michaels, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and Eric Watts.
You know what? If you want to say anything good about Vince Russo, he was certainly trying to do something nice for Bill Watts.
But wait a minute. There's also another couple of suggestions. Maybe he says maybe Watts can fit in this group. Maybe he can't. Christopher can. He's talking about Brian Christopher. Christopher could have, and actually Brian Christopher, as a over-the-top personality and a smartass would have fit right in, maybe. And then the last line, I swear to God, I'm reading this. I have it on paper. I will have it notarized if anybody believes I'm making it up. He's gone through the people that could be members of the elite. Shawn Michaels, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, possibly Billy Gunn, Jesse James, Road Dogg, maybe Eric Watts, maybe not, Brian Christopher, and the last line, Sonny can fit if you let them abuse her.
Come on!
I swear to God!
Why would they have to abuse her for her to fit in this?
Because apparently all cool guys abuse their female fucking tag-along, is according to the ideas that this guy has. And he has to use the word abuse. But anyway, that's there's some more ideas from the font of knowledge.
It started with abuse, it ended with abuse, and in the middle, he invented the elite.
So, but now, now that it all makes sense, because I've been seeing the current modern day elite thinking, well, that's an idea that Shitstain would have had. And son of a bitch, it was.
Well, it's too bad that instead of writing down some of these ideas, it may be helpful for some people to get on the phone with someone and talk these ideas out, speak to someone who could help.
It would have been a good idea if he had talked to anybody about any of these things before he blurted them out in public. But folks, if you don't want to blurt things out in public, but you need somebody to talk to in private, you know who to call, and that's our friends at BetterHelp. Because, for example, we've talked about this so many times. If you had only one car for the rest of your life, would you take care of it? If you had only one of anything for the rest of your life, couldn't get another one, would you take care of it? Well, of course you would, but that's how our brains work. And I'll have you know that 99% of us on the face of the planet will only have one brain through the course of our lifetime, because that surgery is still experimental and it's a long wait list for those donors. So how we care for our minds affects how we experience life. It's time to invest time and care into yourself and your gray matter. You can learn a new language, keep yourself quick and nimble, or you can take power naps to make sure you're well rested, but you can also make yourself available to BetterHelp online therapy, because it's online therapy that offers video and phone and even live chat-only therapy sessions. You don't have to be on camera. You don't have to go anywhere in person. You don't have to drive on the interstates these days. My God, it's death-defying, the traffic. You don't have to mess with any of that. You just connect online, and it's more affordable than in-person therapy. And the folks at BetterHelp can match you up with a therapist in under 48 hours. And right now, our listeners get 10% off their first month services. BetterHelp.com/JCE. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/JCE. So if you have some unwanted individual in your life constantly sending you stupid ideas, and you need somebody to talk to about that or anything else, BetterHelp.com/JCE for 10% off your first month's services. Keep your brain revved up, lubricated, nimble and quick, and in good shape. Brain food. My mom used to talk about that when I was a kid. So-and-so is brain food. What is brain food, Brian? Do you remember? I don't remember what Mama Cornette said.
Salmon is considered brain food.
Well, that's true because that Rusty fella, he's a noted published author. He's very intelligent, so
you're confusing him with Sal Bass, but we get the point.
I thought it was Saul Bass. Is it Sal Bass? Or is it Saul Good? It's all good.
You watch Better Call Saul? Then. They just wrapped it up. Everyone's talking about it.
You know, here's the goddamn thing is I have to go back, and I think I mentioned this to you. I did not realize there was a new season until the new season was underway, and then I was confused as to what order to watch the episodes in. So I don't have any knowledge of what's going on, but I'm waiting till it's all over with, and then I get them all in order, and I just do the whole thing.
Did you watch Breaking Bad?
I never watched Breaking Bad, but I started watching Better Call Saul when they spun it off, and I enjoyed that.
Can you see yourself after finishing Better Call Saul going back and seeing Breaking Bad?
Well, if somebody pays me appropriately, I can see myself doing that, but I'm waiting for the right offer.
Okay, you need to be bribed to watch one of the greatest television shows of all time.
Well, I'm waiting to see if anybody will do it, and that would be good. If not, I can just watch it for free, I guess, but somebody will pay me sooner or later.